I assigned spousal support of $2,000 per month, as well as continuing to pay the mortgage on the house, child support of $1,000, and health insurance until the minor child reaches the age of majority. In addition, if the child attends college, you are obligated to pay these expenses as well, the judge said. This judgment will cost me over $6,500 a month. My wife has screwed over many attorneys in her firm, and now they're screwing over me. My name is Kurt D'Angelo, and my ex-wife's name is Lily, short for Lillian. My daughter, my pride and joy, is named Regina. To say she's daddy's little girl would probably be an understatement. When she was free, I took her to different places. She told the judge she wanted me to be her guardian, but he wouldn't listen to her. The whole proceedings were total crap. The monthly child support was exorbitant. Lily was working and earning money. I didn't have to support her, pay the mortgage, and everything else. I was definitely being cheated, and the judge was in on it. However, I wasn't going to take it personally. Moreover, I was already figuring out how to make her regret leaving me. I can be vindictive when I feel like I've been wronged. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, Lansing, Illinois to be exact. We know how to hurt someone. Some people call me an entrepreneur. I simply say I am an entrepreneur who sees opportunities and capitalizes on them. When I was young, I have to admit that not all of those opportunities to make money were legitimate. Now I'm in real estate. I own several rental homes, vending machines, and another business that will come in handy to fulfill one of my debt repayment obligations to my loving wife, that is ex-wife. I own a coin-changing business similar to Coinstar, with vending machines throughout Chicagoland as well as northern Indiana. This would allow me to pay spousal support, all $2,000 in any change. Have her bring them to the bank. They will insist on having them all on a roll. Maybe she'll get one of her law buddies to help count them and stuff them up her sleeve. Lily stayed home with Regina until she went to school. Lily then worked part-time for a few years. Then she got the idea to become a paralegal. She took courses for about 2 years and then went out on the market with a resume trying to find a job. After about 6 weeks, she was hired at one of the big law firms in the area. Lily is smart, but I now believe it was her looks, even at 32, that helped her get the job. She was one of many paralegals at the firm, but it didn't take long for her to advance. She was spotted by an up-and-coming attorney and made her an associate. Now I wonder if she was self-serving in those days. I, as a foolish husband, fully supported her choice of profession. She would come home tired but with a smile on her face. Again, thinking back on it, I wonder why she was tired and what those smiles were for. We lived in a nice house in Oak Forest, Illinois, a typical working-class suburb of Chicago. As she began to socialize more with younger lawyers and even senior partners, her attitude changed. She started saying, "We need to move to a better neighborhood. You make good money, and I work at a prestigious law firm. We need to show the world that we're successful." I loved the house we lived in. We renovated it and made it our own. I didn't want or need to live in one of the expensive suburbs. After 2 years of her nagging, I agreed, but told her I wasn't selling our house, that it was our home. We could rent it out, add it to the other houses I owned. So we bought a house on the north side of Chicago, in Wilmette. To afford the $900,000 mansion, as I called it, we had to take out a jumbo loan. It wasn't on the shores of Lake Michigan, but it was close enough. She furnished it with new furniture to her liking. I never felt comfortable there. In fact, thinking about it now, I think it was the beginning of the end for us. We wanted different things from life. I wanted to be humble, the kind of millionaire next door that no one knows about. She, on the other hand, wanted to flaunt her wealth and live the same lifestyle. Now back to the judge's ruling in our divorce proceedings. I would fulfill his requirements exactly, but she wouldn't like it. Over the next month, I began to make my plans. My daughter would receive child support payments, but Lily wouldn't see them. They would go into an account designated just for Regina, and she would be able to get whatever she needed and wanted. She will also have health insurance, the best I could find. Lily, on the other hand, will only have catastrophic insurance. It will be a policy with a very high deductible. She would have to pay for all medical services until she became terminally ill, at which point the policy would kick in. 30 days later, it was time to pay Lily the first installment of spousal support. An armored truck pulled up to the mansion, and the driver knocked on the door. When Lily appeared on the doorstep, she was not alone. One of her buddies was with her. The driver informed her that he was delivering the first month's payment. She was confused, not understanding why an armored truck was parked in the driveway. By this time, a few curious neighbors had climbed out of their McMansions. Perhaps they thought she had won the publishing house lottery. They saw two guys bringing bag after bag of change into the front room and dumping it on the Italian marble floor. The sound was amazing, even from across the street where I was standing by the car recording everything on my phone. When the truck pulled away, she saw me and started yelling after me. I just waved at her and yelled back, "I hope you're enjoying your money, whore." I then climbed into my truck and drove off. I wasn't surprised when a man approached me on Tuesday and asked if I was Kurt D'Angelo. I just stood there and ignored him. "Excuse me, sir. Are you Kurt D'Angelo?" He said it with more force. Once again, I didn't recognize him. He pulled out his cell phone and took a picture of me with the subpoena offered. When I didn't accept it, he threw it on the ground and said, "You got the subpoena," turned around and walked away. After making sure he was gone, I bent down and picked it up. I was due to appear in court the following Wednesday. That gave me a week to finalize all my preparations. I made the most of that week by calling and talking to people, making appointments, and preparing for court. I also called Regina and we had lunch. She was angry at her mother. She couldn't believe she had become such a bitch. She told her mother again that she wanted to live with me, but she wouldn't agree. I told her, "I'm going to see the judge again, and if he still doesn't agree, I'll probably end up in jail." "Don't do anything violent, Daddy. It's not worth it," she said. "Don't worry, I won't. But I'll speak my mind, and I might go to jail for it. Your mom will be thrilled about that, I'm sure. Don't worry about me. I can handle it. However, I've set up a trust for you. Uncle Ken will be the trustee until you reach the age of majority. He'll make sure that anything you want or need will be fulfilled. But understand, your mother is not to receive any of this. It is meant for your maintenance, not hers." "Of course, Daddy, she doesn't deserve anything," she said firmly. "That was my girl. She had a strong will and she was becoming quite an adult. Daddy, I'm going to go to court with you. I'm going to demand that I live with you. I don't know if that will do any good." It was Wednesday, and Regina, my attorney, and I were sitting on the gallery waiting our turn in front of the judge. Lily walked in with her lawyer buddy and said, "Hey, jerk, you better follow the program. You won't be able to do everything you want to do. You'll see." When the judge called my name, Regina stood up and was the first to approach the podium. "Excuse me, miss. This is a case involving Kurt D'Angelo," the judge said. "I am his daughter and I want to petition the court for custody of my father, not that bitch, my mother," she said and looked at Lily. "Young lady, you will not talk like that in my courtroom. Your guardian has already been determined." "But I'm 15 years old. I should have the right to choose who I want to be with," she demanded, interrupting the judge. "Well, there were allegations of an inappropriate relationship with your father, so I ruled in favor of your mother." Hearing this, I looked at Lily and a smirk appeared on her face. My attorney stepped forward and said, "Your Honor, we are not aware of any charges or that they were made or presented to the court at any previous hearing. I refer to the psychiatrist's report that I received. With that information, I stand by my opinion, so this matter is closed." About 4 months prior, Regina had been going through a bad divorce as well as problems at school, so we decided to take her to a psychiatrist. There must have been something in those records that Lily thought might have tilted the judge in her favor. I never had any inappropriate activities with my daughter. Lily tried to paint me as a pedophile. My blood pressure went up. I couldn't believe that Lily could lie like that, accusing me of something I didn't do. The judge wouldn't even let me make my point. I stared at the judge. He's going to pay for this. I think her law firm was handling it. We'll see what happens in the end. My vindictive nature was starting to kick in. Lily's attorney stepped forward and said, "We asked the court to find Kurt D'Angelo guilty of contempt of court." My attorney was almost as heated as I was. He saw that there would be no justice in this courtroom today. "Your Honor, my client has complied with all the terms of the divorce decree thus far. There are no grounds for contempt of court." "Your Honor," said Lily's buddy's attorney, "his monthly spousal maintenance payment was delivered a week ago Saturday and thrown on the floor of her home." "So?" the judge asked. "All $2,000 was in change, mostly pennies and nickels. It caused some damage to the flooring and took considerable time and effort to clean up. My attorney didn't even wait for the judge's response. He was already prepared. Your Honor, Title 31, USC Section 5103 states, coins and currency of the United States shall be legal tender for the payment of all debts, public charges, taxes, and duties. My client paid the required spousal maintenance payments. Likewise, he has met the insurance, mortgage, and alimony requirements. Your Honor, Attorney Lilly said, at this time, my client has not received alimony from Mr. D'Angelo. That is correct, Your Honor, my attorney stated. Child support was paid directly to his daughter for any of her needs and requirements. You can ask her about that yourself. The judge was puzzled. He looked at Regina and she smiled, nodding her head. We have canceled checks for insurance and mortgage, my lawyer said. I looked at Lily and her lawyer. They were trying to think of something. Your Honor, he said, paying in change is causing my client an absolutely intolerable hardship. Can we ask that she be given a check in the future? The judge, finally managing to get a word in edgewise, said, that seems reasonable. Before he could say anything else, my attorney spoke up. Your Honor, before you go on talking about this, could you answer a couple of questions related to this? And what are they? He asked. Is the Chicago Police Department part of the legal system of the city of Chicago? The judge looked at my lawyer like he was crazy and said, of course it is. Why then, my attorney continued, if my client has his car impounded and wants to drive it out of a Chicago police impound lot, he can't write a check but must pay in cash or by credit card? The judge stammered, My attorney continued, if the police, by your own admission, which is part of the Chicago legal system, refuse to accept a check, how can my client be required to pay future spousal support in the form of a check? The judge, who now looked like a buffoon, became defensive and said, because this is my court, and what I say has force. At this point, I had had enough. I stood up and said, because you are the law, and you are trying to please my wife's law firm. Was she a whore to you too? At which point he exploded. Mr. D'Angelo, I find you in contempt of court and sentence you to 6 months in the Cook County Jail unless you apologize to me and the court and agree to any conditions I impose. Who are you? The king? The king of this kangaroo court? I shouted. The judge was shocked. I'm sure he had never been spoken to like that before. Bailiff, take this man into custody. I looked at Lily and her lawyer. They were stunned. Good luck getting money for the whores, bitch, I said, and then smiled. She didn't know yet how much her life would change. I was taken to a cell, strip-searched, and transferred to jail. Jail is a good word. It's more like a prison. Immediately, 2 guards began questioning me about how I had disrespected the judge. I was not afraid of prison. My height is 5'6", and my weight is about 255 pounds. Working in rental real estate kept me in shape. I also did time in juvie as a teenager. I was processed and escorted to the cell yard. I ignored all the talking and yelling. I was determined to stay in the shadows and always be on guard. As long as no one messed with me, I would be a ghost. When the evening meal was served, I took my tray and snuck through the formation. I stood against the wall and ate, looking at the scum who were trying to pretend to be something more than they really were. And then amidst the noise, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in literally decades. Tex? My friends on the street had called me Tex since the days when I was a juvenile delinquent. Tex, Randall, also known as Ringer, said, What the hell are you doing here? As he approached, many glances followed him and turned to me. I set the tray down and put my arms around him, interlocking my right hands between them and my other arm around his shoulders. Ringer, wow, you're so handsome. How the hell are you doing? Well, I'm here, so not so good. You probably aren't either. What did you do? Basically told the judge he was an asshole. That'll be enough, he said. So how long are you here for? 6 months if I don't apologize to that son of a bitch. So, 6 months, I guess. We talked and ate, and some of the prisoners looked at us. Ringer told me about the situation in the prison. He said he would cover for me, and I agreed. We talked about old times. What are you going to do about the ex, her lovers, and the judge? He asked, after I told him everything. He knew me from a young age. Revenge had always been part of my behavior back then. In fact, that's why I got the nickname Tex. Tex is short for Texas. It means, don't mess with Texas. People who mess with him pay the price. They'll think twice before they cross me, and they'll tell others about it. So, Judge, what happened in there? He asked. I told him he was basically a piece of shit. Oh shit, what did he do? He asked. He took my little girl away from me even though she asked to live with me and then accused me of molesting her. Oh shit, what are you going to do about it? I have some plans. I kind of knew I was going to be here, so I started planning weeks ago. Is there anything I can help you with? He asked. Maybe, but right now I don't know. It sure is nice to have a friend here, though. I'll introduce you to some of my buddies. It's good to have people you can count on. After introductions, Ringer started telling stories about running around the streets of Lansing. There were a few chuckles, but mostly nods, as if their stories weren't much different from each other. That night I lay in my bunk staring at the wall. How did things get to this point? I asked myself. I asked myself. I began to review my life. My childhood was hard by most people's standards. My father was an abusive drunk and my mother was not firm, even when my father started hitting me. Because of this, I spent most of my time on the streets. I met a group of guys who were in a similar situation. We weren't a gang, although we pretended to be. We were just oddball guys dealing with our own problems. The crime rate in Lansing is pretty high, and we weren't helping those statistics, mostly small stuff, but we stole a car a couple times. I went to jail because of that. In retrospect, it was the best thing that happened to me. Sure, it was hard, but I had time to think about the direction my life was going. I vowed to myself that I would do something with my life. When I got out, I changed. I started planning for the future. By the time I was 20, I had saved enough money to buy a confiscated house in my neighborhood. It became the first of many houses I renovated and started renting out. When I was 22 years old, I was in a club trying my luck. I don't even remember the name of that club. It changed names so many times over the following decade, and then it was torn down to make way for condos. I did get lucky that night, at least I thought so at the time. I met Lily. We started a relationship. Her life was very different from mine. She had just moved to Chicago to live with a friend. She grew up in Seymour, Indiana. Seymour is a small town best known as the hometown of John Cougar Mellencamp. By the time Lily was born, he had already become famous and moved away, so she never even met him. Growing up in a small Midwestern town produced a 21-year-old woman with an attitude toward life that I found appealing. I guess opposites attract. A year later, we were married, and another year later, Regina was born, named after Lily's mom. I bought a house in Oak Forest to rent out, but when she saw it, she liked it and wanted to make it our home. We spent the next 10 years fixing it up the way we wanted. It was the best 10 years of my life. We worked on home projects together, watched our daughter grow up, and invited the neighbors over for barbecues. It was the American dream. Then Lily got a job at a law firm, and things started to change, mostly her attitude toward life. The simple life no longer suited her. She needed expensive clothes, jewelry, and neighborhood barbecues were replaced by going to expensive restaurants, often with people from her law firm. She also began making derogatory statements about residents of Chicago's South Side neighborhood. I know the reputation and reality of the South Side, but she was a country girl who acted like she was better than everyone else. We fought more than once over that attitude. Soon after that, she started constantly urging me to move to the North Side. 3 years ago, we moved. Of course, the school system was better, but now Regina felt the attitude of her North Side classmates. It was making her school life unbearable. She kept saying she wanted to go back home. So did I, but Lily never heard anything about it. She was where she wanted to be. The event that started the divorce was an evening like so many others at the time. She called around 6:30 and said she was going to a dance with other paralegals from her job. However, that evening I tracked her cell phone and decided to check on her. I stood in the shadows and watched her. Sure enough, she was dancing, but with the guys from the club. They flanked her like she was free. They were doing anything but having sex on the dance floor. At about 9:15, I had to go to the bathroom to relieve myself. While I was doing my business in the stall, a guy came in and started peeing in the urinal. When he was done, another guy walked in. "Damn, Joe, you're getting turned on with Lily on the dance floor. I thought you were going to do it right there." "Yeah, she's wild. the first guy said. You know she is. She said she's going home with me tonight. We can finally have some proper fun instead of 20 minutes in the office or in the backseat of my car. Yeah, it's good for instant relief, but it doesn't compare to the sexual experience, said the other guy. Well, we'll be working all night tonight, bragged the first guy. Maybe next weekend it'll be my turn, said the second guy as they both left the restroom. I know guys like to talk, but this sounded more real than just bragging. A minute later, I came out of the restroom and saw her in the arms of one of the guys kissing on the dance floor. Around 9:30 p.m., she texted me that she had had too much alcohol and didn't feel comfortable enough to go to L that late at night. She texted me that she was going to spend the night with Paula, one of the other paralegals in her office. I texted her back, that too. She replied, I'm sorry. She'll be sorry. I saw her grab her purse and walk out of the club, holding hands with a young paralegal from her office. I followed after them. They were so engrossed in each other that she didn't notice me. They jumped into his Lexus and kissed and groped each other for a few minutes. I started to get angry, but then Southside's vindictiveness took over, and I calmed down, making my plans. I followed them to his building. They pulled into the parking lot and I headed towards the mansion. When we arrived, I explained to Regina that we were leaving and that she should pack everything she wanted because we weren't coming back. She was excited, but asked, What about Mom? She's being taken care of by the other guys right now. She understood exactly what I meant. It took us about 3 hours, but we packed everything into the back of my truck. Fortunately, our house in Oak Forest had recently vacated, so we had a place to go. Around 11 o'clock the next day, Saturday, she called me on my cell phone. Kurt, what's going on? Where are you? At home, was all I said. It only took her a couple seconds to realize what I meant. Why? She asked, knowing full well why. I don't know you anymore and I don't want to know. Where's Regina? With me. She doesn't want to live in this house with you anymore. I realized she wasn't sure if I knew anything about her buddy or not, so she said, Come on, Kurt. If you don't like living in luxury, that doesn't mean you're just going to leave and take our daughter with you. No, Lily, but a wife having fun with me is an excuse to leave. Expect divorce papers next week. She sighed and then said in her usual demeaning manner, You Southside piece of shit. You have no idea what hell you're bringing upon yourself. My firm is going to eat you up. That may be true, I said, but in the end I will prevail. You haven't seen my full wrath yet. For the next 6 months, she made no attempt at reconciliation. She even called me to let me know she was seeing one lawyer or another. I didn't care. There was no turning back. I had to get Regina back, and to do that, she had to go back to school. Regina informed me that Lily was out almost every night until at least 12 noon. She also told me that she constantly rebuked me, telling me that I had no class and that Regina should aim to get one of the rich guys from her school as a future husband so you could live in luxury for the rest of your life. Regina always defended me and told my mom she wanted to go back to Oak Forest. Now I'm lying here in jail, and Lily probably thinks she won. I've been to jail, but I'll work. I wonder if she thought about how she would pay the mortgage, health insurance, and of course spousal support. She certainly thought a few days in jail would make me come to my senses. No, they would just give me more time to plan and carry out my revenge. On Thursday afternoon, something happened that would change the lives of many people, some of whom I would never meet. 2 security guards ordered me to come with us. I was taken to a video conference room. I asked, What is this? If I'm going to talk to the judge, I want my lawyer there. I was pushed into the room and told, Sit down. You're not going to talk to the judge, but you're going to be sentenced. They slammed the door shut and I started yelling to be let out. About 10 minutes later, I was already thrashing around the room when the door opened and the guards let 6 cellmates into the room. I knew what they were going to try and I was going to do everything I could to make sure it didn't happen. You shouldn't mess with me, I stated. You'll regret it. One of them lunged at me and I punched him right in the nose. I heard it crack. Then they all lunged at me. I swung back, kicked, elbowed, and pinned them against the walls. Then the largest of them, 6 inches taller than me, took me in a chokehold. I kept taking the blows until I lost consciousness. I woke up in the infirmary. I was covered in blood and bruises and my ass was on fire. I knew what they had done. They needed to establish dominance, and that's how they did it. I realized by the light coming through the window that it was morning. I had been out all night. When the nurse came to see me, I looked at her with hatred in my eyes, hatred for this whole system that could take my baby away from me, make me pay so my ex-wife could continue to live in the mansion, and finally put me in jail to teach me a lesson. The nurse looked at me. I was tied up so I couldn't move my arms or legs. Seeing the hatred in my eyes, she said, "I am here to help you, not to hurt you. You were beaten up badly. They said you fought, but we both know the truth. I can either help you get better or you can lie here and suffer. There's no difference for me." I realized she had said the last words but didn't really mean them. She wanted to help. I tried to smile and said, "I'm sorry. You've been through a traumatic event. I can only imagine your rage." She left but returned with a plate of breakfast for me. She unclasped one of my hands. "Thank you," I said, "and you're welcome." As I sat and ate, I knew what I was going to do. "Can I ask a favor?" I said. "It depends on the situation," she replied. "One of the prisoners, Randall Turner, is a friend of mine that I grew up with. May I invite him to join me?" "We'll see," she replied, in an indifferent tone. It turned out that she had managed to get permission for Ringer to visit. Later that day, he came to see me. Upon seeing me, he said, "Holy shit." He knew I wasn't going to let this go unnoticed. I described the 6 guys and 2 security guards who did this to me. Then I said, "I need to know the full names of all 8 of them, not their nicknames." "Holy shit," he repeated. "And what are you going to do?" "An eye for an eye, but with a twist." He saw my look and knew what that meant. He knew it wouldn't be pretty and that innocent people would pay. "I'll try to catch them," he said. "What do you want from me?" "Just this, I'll take care of the rest." We talked some more and then he was escorted back to his cell. Sleep that night was restless. I couldn't get comfortable strapped to the bed. The next day, Ringer came back with the list. He asked again, "What are you going to do?" "The less you know, the better," I told him. "Oh shit," he said. The next day was Sunday, and I got a good and bad surprise. Lily arrived and brought Regina. Lily was the first one to talk to me. "So I see you found common ground with your fellow misfits," she said. "What the hell do you want?" I growled. "Regina insisted we come to you. Are you ready to apologize and be reasonable yet?" "No way. And what is this nonsense about me and Regina? You know I'd never do anything to her." "How would I know? She's unusually attached to you," she said. "You're a piece of shit. Why don't you go back to your buddies and have them look up your ass so you can see how much shit is in you? Just so you know, it's happened before and they loved it." She gloated. "Get the hell out of here and send Regina over here. I'm sick of talking to you." She smiled the way only a nasty bitch could smile. She thought she had me, and she did, only adding fuel to the fire that would burn her ass. When Regina was brought in, she cried when she saw me lying there with all the bandages on. "Honey, don't cry. It looks worse than it is." "Oh, Daddy, I was scared when I saw you lying there like that. You look like you've been in an accident." "Don't worry about me, honey. I'm tougher than I look." "Daddy, I hate Mom for doing that to you. I hate her for making me live with her, and I hate her for saying you did inappropriate things to me. That's total bullshit." "I know, Regina," I said, trying to comfort her. "Don't call me that again," she said. I looked at her, perplexed. "I'm Gina from now on. I don't want to be associated with my mom or anyone in her family." That's what I told her, and then declared that I wouldn't talk to her again if I didn't have to. And I haven't talked since Monday. She keeps trying to be nice to me, but I keep ignoring her. "Gina," I said, using her new name, "you're more like me than you realize." "I couldn't be prouder of that," she said, smiling. We talked some more about little things. Then I asked, "Would you do anything for me?" "Anything, Daddy." I handed her the list Ringer had made for me, and she immediately put it in her bra. "Give this to Uncle Ken and tell him to come see me as soon as possible." My brother Ken was 3 years younger than me. He grew up with the same abusive, drunken father, but I protected him as best I could. I also took the brunt of the abuse to keep him safe. He had all the brains. He got really into computer games and then moved on to computers themselves. We sat and talked for a while longer until Lily came back and said, "Regina, we have to go." Gina didn't say anything back to her, just got up, gave me a hug, and left. Lily said to me, "Your daughter is just as stubborn as you are." I just smiled at her and she turned and walked away. On Tuesday, Ken came to visit. He was shocked at my appearance. "I look much better than I did last Friday," I said. "I'm glad I waited," he jokingly replied. Then he spoke to me in our own made-up language. We made it up as kids to talk about mom and dad in ways they wouldn't understand. Now, when we need to talk in private, we use it. "Regina." "I'm sorry, Gina," he said in our language. She gave me the list. I did some preliminary research. "What are you looking for?" "Addresses of wives or steady girlfriends." He looked at me and then said in English, "Oh shit." Speaking our language, I said, "That's all you need to do. Then give this to Gummy and ask him to visit me without a list." Gummy was the nickname of one of my gang members. Ken knew he was still living in his parents' old house in the Lansing neighborhood. "I can do that. Anything else?" "No, that'll be enough. But don't be a stranger, I could use a familiar face now and then." "Aren't you going to leave?" he asked. "Not until I apologize, and you know me better than that." "You've always been stubborn," he declared. "Yeah, and it kept you safe from your father's drunken wrath," I said. He realized I was right and just smiled. "I'll stop by in the next 2 weeks to see if you need anything else." "That would be great." That same week I went back to my regular cell, and Ringer informed me that things were going to go south and that there was going to be a price to pay. They just didn't know what for. The looks I was getting from the 2 guards as well as the 6 said, "You better stay put or it's going to happen again." They didn't know yet that they were the ones who would be put on the spot. Gummy came to visit and said to me, "Ken gave me this. What do you want?" "Did you hear what they did to me?" "Yeah, I heard," he said. Ken must have told him. "Return the favor, but to their loved ones. Just no DNA, use Steely Dan or his more flexible cousins," I said. He nodded. He understood what I meant. Then I said, "All on the same day, preferably at the same time. Make sure they tell their loved ones, don't mess with Texas." "I'll get my friends to help," he said and walked away. Someday he would avenge me. He knew how to do it in such a way that they wouldn't be able to identify anyone. But they would know the reason. A week passed, but I heard nothing. Besides, I was expecting another visit from my daughter. I didn't want to see Lily, but I knew she had to be here if Gina came. Tuesday morning, I noticed that the 2 security guards were not at work. Tuesday wasn't usually a day off for them. Also, one of the 6 was distracted and looked upset. It must have happened yesterday, I thought to myself. I talked to Ringer and asked him to tell him, "Don't mess with Tex." Soon, several inmates started addressing me. "Hey, Tex." After a couple days, the Sixers started throwing mean looks at me. 2 of the guards went back to work and started looking at me too. Ringer's friends, however, had my back. When one of the 6s approached me, 8 of my new friends stepped up and surrounded us. The guy said, "You're a piece of shit. I don't know how you did it, but my girlfriend dumped me. She told me she didn't want to risk it again. Then she said, 'I was told, don't mess with Texas.'" I looked at her, smiled, and said, "That sounds like good advice. I told you all not to do what you did. Now your women know how it feels. An eye for an eye with a twist. The twist is that you hurt me, and I hurt those you care about. Tell them all that next time it will be their mothers." His eyes got big, and he turned to his buddies. Soon 2 guards came up to me and said, "Who do you think you are? We're going to make your stay here a living hell." "Well, then I guess your wives better get used to being taken in the ass. They might even like it." After that, one of the guards came up to hit me. I didn't fight back. A minute or 2 after he allowed himself to be beaten, he was dragged away by another guard. Many inmates witnessed this. I'm sure the cameras saw it too. I was brought back to the infirmary where I met Beth, the nurse who had helped me the first time. "So we have a troublemaker here, huh?" I didn't throw any punches. The guard just started hitting me, I said. "There will be an investigation this time. There were too many witnesses. He'll probably lose his job over this." "One less asshole security guard," I said. "Those guards keep you safe, believe it or not." "He certainly didn't keep me safe last time. More than that, he let it happen," I replied. She bandaged me up and told me I would have to stay overnight for observation. I wondered if she just wanted to look at my pretty face mottled with wrinkles. The guard was suspended pending investigation. The other guard kept throwing stern glances at me, but didn't dare say anything to me. Perhaps he realized, don't mess with Texas. Gina hadn't come to see me in 3 weeks, and I kept wondering what was going on. Finally, Ken came in and told me that Lily was refusing to bring Gina to visit. That pissed me off even more. My ex-wife was hiding my daughter from me. Lily arrived at the end of the month. She almost left Gina at home, but Gina wouldn't get out of the car no matter how much she screamed and yelled. Lily came in to see me and was already furious. Your daughter is acting impossible. She hardly ever talks to me. She's just as stubborn as you are. You said that last time you were here. Why don't you ask the judge to reverse his decision and turn her over to me? I'd be happy to take her off your hands, I told her. You're not getting her. She needs to go to a good school so she can accomplish something. Oak Forest is a good school and she liked it there, I told her. It's not even close to Wilmette. She's getting a great education and meeting people who will help her in the future, she replied. Our daughter will make her own way in life. She doesn't need to ride on someone else's coattails. I objected. You're just so stubborn that you don't see the good in it. Lily, we've argued about this hundreds of times. You'll never change my mind, and I'm not going to change yours. Why did you come here in the first place? I know it wasn't to bring Gina to me. Her name is Regina, not Gina. Well, she doesn't want to be called that. Don't you want her to be an independent woman? You mean stubborn, Lily said. No, I mean independent. Able to think for herself, to decide what's right for her, not go along to get along with a guy with money or power or maybe a big D. She looked at me and grinned. She knew that last remark was meant for her. Anyway, that's it. She said, I need spousal support payments. I need to buy things and pay bills. Well, you'll have to pay for them out of your paycheck. I can't get checks from my S-Corp while I'm incarcerated, and I don't need to. No job, no paycheck. That's how it works in the real world. What do you mean? I can't pay all the bills on my paycheck. Well, you should have thought about that before taking me to court, I replied. Well, you acted like an ass by paying in change. Now you won't get the money because I'm in jail. And for nothing, she said. No, you shouldn't. What are they going to do to me? Put me in jail if I don't pay? Oh, I'm already in jail. It wouldn't be very wise of them to get me out to throw me back in. What am I going to do about the bills? She whined. I looked at her and said, ask one of your lawyer buddies to pay the bills. I'm sure you deserve it. With those words, she ran out of the room. Gina walked in. I was so happy to see her. Wow, you really pissed her off, she said. She's counting on me to keep paying her spousal support while I'm in jail. Ha, good luck with that, I said. How are you holding up, Dad? Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. How are you doing, though? I hear you still don't talk to Mom. Not very often, only when I have to, she replied. So when are you leaving here? Honey, I refuse to apologize to that asshole judge. I'll only apologize if he gives you back to me. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I probably won't get out of here until my 6 months are up. I understand, she said sadly. You know it's my birthday next month. I'd like you to come out so we can celebrate, but I don't want you to go against your principles. We can celebrate when you come out. This was tearing me apart. I began to reconsider my position. By being here, I was hurting my little girl. Then Gina said something that set things straight. If a man has no principles, he has nothing. As Abraham Lincoln said, important principles can and should be unshakable, she pronounced. Where did you hear that? I asked. My counselor Dr. Hodges, is in school right now. It's great to have someone to talk to about all this. Some of my teachers noticed that my grades were dropping and asked the counselor to come and talk to me. It also helped me deal with my mom, although I still don't talk to her. In a school system like Wilmette, the counselor could have been a doctor of psychology. These rich kids couldn't go to any school counselor. Then I said to Gina, it sounds like your mom is mad at you too. Yeah, she's starting to annoy me. I just ignore her. I think it makes it worse, and I don't care. Well, in a couple more months, she's going to have to start looking for a place to live. The bank won't let the loan go unpaid for too long. I think her mansion will be foreclosed on within 3 months. But Daddy, if the house goes into foreclosure, won't that ruin your reputation? Honey, when you usually buy things with cash, you don't worry about credit. This stupid mansion is the only thing I took out a loan for. Really? Wow, Dad, even with all your rent and stuff, you never took out a loan? Used other people's money to buy new ones, I told her. Daddy, I've always respected you, but I respect you even more now. She said this with a smile on her face. Thank you, honey. You really know how to lift my spirits. It was a wonderful visit with my daughter. Really, I wish I could be with her more often. Besides, missing her birthday would have been hard on both of us. But I knew she would be fine. She's a strong kid. The next week, I found out that the security guard who hit me had been fired. It was hard to object to a videotape that didn't even show me defending myself. A few days later, the second guard was fired as well. I don't know if he was transferred or not, but at least he left. Several prisoners thanked me for getting rid of that rotten guard. I think I gained some respect with that. Now, more and more people were calling me Tex. I didn't have much trouble after that. The Sixers were still pissed at me. I heard that one of their wives had filed for divorce and the other three had been dumped by their girlfriends. Maybe stupid people are capable of learning. Given the threat of new reprisals and the fact that my situation among the other prisoners had improved, they realized they had better do nothing. A couple weeks later, I received a summons to report to the videotape room to meet with the judge. I told the guard who came to get me that I was not going to meet with anyone without a lawyer. But the judge is already waiting, he said. I don't care. I want my lawyer, have him reschedule, my calendar is open. The guard hesitated, then turned and walked away. 3 days later, I was informed that the appointment was set for the following week. I asked that the attorney and I have a half hour before the meeting to consult. They arranged it, and the attorney and I met to discuss what was going to happen. The lawyer told me that he was not given any information about the meeting, which seems strange to him. I guess we will proceed as circumstances dictate. When the judge appeared on the videotape, I realized he wasn't happy that the meeting had been postponed a week, but I didn't care. In my mind, he was a piece of shit who thought he was better than everyone else just because he was a judge. My lawyer spoke almost immediately. Your Honor, may I ask what this relates to? We didn't get any information. We were just told to be here. Your client didn't need to involve you, he said. I just wanted to know if he was willing to apologize to the court for his outburst. The lawyer looked at me and I gestured for him to sit down. He leaned over and I whispered in his ear. Your Honor, my lawyer said, he doesn't want to apologize and asked that you apologize to him. He also asked that you give him primary custody of the child. The judge looked shocked. How could I ask him to apologize? Of course he wouldn't do that. My decision regarding the child stands and I have nothing to apologize for. He said, well, then we've wasted our time. Should my client decide to change his mind in the future, we will request an audience at this time. Good day, sir. One more thing, the judge said. I thought, now we'll know the real reason for the meeting. Your client is not honoring the divorce decree. When does he plan to make his spousal support and mortgage payments? My attorney leaned toward me, and I whispered in his ear again. Your Honor, he doesn't plan to make any payments while he's in custody. But his house will be foreclosed on, the judge said. It's not my house, maybe my wife's mansion, but it's not my house. I never wanted to own it. I bluntly told the judge, it will ruin your credit and you will lose all your equity. He said, a small price to pay to see my beloved ex-wife walking down the street where she belongs, I said. Then I said something that I knew would piss him off. Perhaps all her buddies can make the payments. I'm sure you can all find the money together. I knew that by insinuating that my wife was a whore and he was one of her lovers, he would fly into a rage. You worthless piece of shit Southside scum. Who do you think you're talking to? I interrupted him as he was about to continue. I think I'm talking to the man who partook of my wife's body. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I just can't understand why someone who isn't in the game would care so much. With those words, I stood up and went to the door to be let out. I heard the judge say, Counselor, your client just earned himself 2 extra months in jail. If he continues to disrespect me, I will make his life a living hell. I smiled, waiting for the guard who was supposed to return me to my cell. I realized he was listening because a stunned expression appeared on his face. He couldn't believe what I had just done. When I got back to my cell, I was on edge. Apparently, my wife had blabbed about the mortgage to her buddies, who in turn had talked to the judge. What a goddamn rat's nest. Their time would come soon enough. The following Sunday, Lily couldn't resist visiting me at the jail. Luckily, Gina found out about it and made her bring her along. I heard you pissed off the judge again and got 2 more months in jail. When are you going to learn? You can't fight the system. Lily, why don't you talk to me anymore? All you do is try to show your attitude toward Northside. I don't need that. All I need is for you to make sure Gina visits me regularly." She practically shouted, "It's Regina." I turned away and didn't speak to her. She kept swearing. Finally, she left and Gina walked in. When she walked in, she had a huge smile on her face. I asked her why she was so happy. "Because I'm going to Daddy's," she replied. "That can't be the only reason," I said. "I have a surprise for you, but I can't tell you what it is until I think it over." "Dad, do you trust me?" "With my life," I answered. "Then will you sign this paper without reading it?" She held out a folded piece of paper. I looked at her warily. "What are you up to?" "You'll have to wait and see. I thought you trusted me." I smiled at her and signed the paper. She folded it so that only the spot where she wanted to write my name was visible. "Mom said you did something to get your sentence extended for another 2 months. Is that true?" "Yes, I'm very sorry, dear." "And what did you do?" "Appealed to the judge again." "Well, whatever you did, he probably deserved it." We talked some more about school and her mom. She kept bringing up the Dr. Alex Hodges story and wondering what was going on. I tried to get her to tell me about her plans for my autograph, but she said it should remain a surprise. "I'm sorry I won't be at your 16th birthday party, but the next time you come to see me, I'll have a present for you." "What kind?" she asked. "It's a surprise, so I guess we're both in for surprises," I said. At the end of the visit, I asked Gina to invite Greg to join me. Greg was my right-hand man. He helped me in all business matters. "Sure, Daddy," she said. "I assigned Greg a few specific cases when I thought I was going to jail. I hope he handled them well." Now I had one more job for him, a surprise birthday party for Gina. At the end of that week, Greg came to visit us. He had managed to do quite a bit of what I had asked him to do. Then I asked him to prepare a surprise party for Gina for her birthday. He looked at me and said, "Are you sure?" "Yes, it's the perfect gift for her." "Okay, I'll talk to our lawyer," he said. "Also, visit my brother Ken and give him what you have. He'll know what to do with it. If he has any questions, have him come to me. If not, let him go to Gummy." "Will do," he said, and walked away. I only smiled and kept the smile on my face all day. Gummy knew my devious mind and was going to get back at me while I was guilt-free in jail. By the end of the month, my popularity among the prisoners had increased. A guard must have told someone how I treated the judge, and like any other organization, word spread among the prisoners. Pretty soon, everyone was calling me Tex. Also, near the end of the month, I had a visitor. I walked into the room and saw Lily sitting there. I was about to turn around and leave when she said, "Kurt, please stop. I need to talk to you." "I have nothing to say to you, Lily," I replied. "We're going to lose our house. You have to give me some money to stop the foreclosure." She pleaded. "It's your house, Lily. I never wanted to buy it, but you kept begging me until I gave in. This house means nothing to me, and in a falling market, we don't have any equity. Let the bank take it." "Kurt, you can't do that. You have to help me. Go and ask your buddies for help. I'm sure they have enough money. Then you can truly become the whore you are." "Why are you doing this to me?" she sobbed. "Why did you lie and tell the judge that I was molesting our daughter?" She didn't know what to say. She realized what she had done to me was wrong. She cried, and I left. It felt good to spill it all out. As I was being led back to my cell, the guard got a call to bring me back. When I walked in expecting to see Lily sitting there crying and begging me to help her again, I was surprised to see Gina. "Gina, your mom didn't tell me she brought you." "I wouldn't let her come without me," she said. "I'm sorry I missed your birthday," I said, "but I have a present for you nonetheless." "Daddy, I knew you would miss me and I don't care. I love you anyway. And you don't have to give me a present," she said. What a wonderful daughter I have, I thought to myself. I don't have it with me, nor can I. But I can tell you what it is. Gina, the house in Oak Forest belongs to you. It will be placed in trust for you when you come of age. When I leave here, can I stay there? Of course I'll pay the rent. Her eyes widened and a huge smile appeared on her face. Daddy, my goodness, you just removed a huge obstacle that was keeping you from being surprised. I still can't tell you, but when I do, you'll understand. I love you so much. I love you too, sweetheart. I was at a loss as to what this surprise was. It must have something to do with our home, not the mansion, but our real home. We both smiled as we continued our conversation. She brought up Alex, her counselor, again. I wondered if she had a crush on him. I hoped he was professional and had no ulterior motives towards her. I would have to meet this Alex guy as soon as I got out of here. As I was led back to my cell, I had a huge smile on my face, both because of the verbal battle with Lily and the wonderful conversation with Gina. The other inmates were perplexed as to what I had done. They already knew that smiling meant someone was hurt. One day, Gummy came to visit me. It was all set. A video of my wife, other paralegals at her firm, some of them married, and prostitutes having fun with most of the firm's attorneys, as well as up-and-coming Democratic politicians and one judge I knew all too well. They all bragged about being above the law and being able to do whatever they wanted. Surprisingly, people don't pay attention to hired servants. The janitors can come and go as they please. For someone who does routine office cleaning after hours, money speaks volumes. Free rent for a year also speaks volumes. We had them install hidden cameras in conference rooms and offices. I knew I'd get enough evidence to upset a few lives. My brother, anonymously of course, was posting videos online with the slogan, "Don't mess with Texas." They would send them to strategic websites, and those websites would send them to every news outlet and tabloid in the state. The various publications would be in a frenzy trying to see who could create more news out of this. Politicians and lawyers would be frantic trying to deal with the fallout. I smiled and said, "In a week's time, go and let the rest of us know what should happen next." He said, "I will." As I walked back to my cell, a wide smile reappeared on my face. Ringer saw it and realized that I had just been talking to Gummy. He said, "Holy shit." I just nodded and smiled even wider. I was lying in my bunk when the videos came out and I could hear the murmurs rolling through the prison. Apparently, somehow the news had reached our little corner of hell. I began to hear people openly saying, "Don't mess with Texas." A few minutes later, I was surprised when a big guy, one of the Sixers, walked into my cell and said, "You bad bastard. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I told you all not to mess with me, that you would regret it. Now more and more people are regretting messing with me. I return kindness for kindness and violence for violence. I hope you'll accept my apology. Of course, just remember that just because you're big doesn't mean you can't hurt yourself." He nodded and left. About 3 days later, I was called before the judge again. He had already called my lawyer and he was on his way. We sat in the video room and waited for the judge to connect. "I wonder what this is about," he said with a smirk. "Only time will tell," I replied with a smirk on my face. "Oh shit," he said. When the judge came on stage, he looked at me with fire in his eyes. "You did it," he yelled. "What are you talking about?" I said in an impassive voice. "You're Tex, aren't you?" He was still yelling. "Some people call me that," I said calmly. "You're going to pay for that," he shouted again. "I've been in jail for the last 4 months. How could I do anything?" I said, not paying attention. "You have friends." "We all have friends, Your Honor," I said wryly. "You're not going to get away with this." He spat. "I don't know, Judge. You may be out of a job soon, and I hear your wife is divorcing you." "Better call off your dogs," he demanded. "Now you're calling my friends dogs? I'm not sure they'd appreciate that. You know, if you corner a dog, he might bite you." "Are you threatening me?" he asked. "No, just repeating an old adage," I said. "I'm going to make your life a living hell. When you get out of this slimy prison, you better be on your guard. One day you're going to have to answer to people who don't care about your life. And I'll be happy no matter what they do to you." Then he cut the transmission. I turned to my lawyer. "Did you get this?" "Of course," he said, holding out the phone. "More fuel to the fire. The Bar Association will be interested to hear this." Apparently in Illinois, intimidation is a criminal offense. A few days later, I had another visitor. It was my wife again. "Oh, it's you. I thought I made it clear to you that I had nothing more to say to you." "You bastard!" she shouted. "What are you talking about?" I asked calmly. "You got me fired. My picture is all over the news and the internet. How could you do this to me?" She whined. "You did it to yourself," I said. "Do you hate me that much?" "Yes, and all your lawyer buddies who think they're better than everyone else," replied I. I continued. "When we first met, you were a nice small-town girl with a great personality. Now you're just an uptown bitch who loves no one but herself. What am I supposed to do? I don't have a job, and now no one will hire me." Move back to Seymour and live with your folks, I suggested. I can't. There was a headline in the local paper. Local girl at center of scandal in Chicago. My parents are going to take early retirement and move to Florida to avoid all this talk. It sounds like Florida is the right place for you. You'll be much farther away from me. They don't want to accept me. They almost don't want to talk to me. Wow, your parents almost don't want to talk to you. And your daughter almost doesn't want to hang out with you. Maybe it's you? I said. I think you should move out and start over. But you better not take Gina with you. As soon as I leave here, I'll come back and petition the court for primary custody. I think with your reputation, they'll reconsider you as the best moral example for an impressionable girl. You can't do that, she said. She's all I have left. Lily, I don't care. You did this to yourself. We had a good life and then you started having fun with everyone. Hey, it's a thought. You could be a whore for one of your lawyer buddies. I'm sure there's a market for an almost 40-year-old ass. She looked at me. There was nothing but pain in her eyes. She rested her forehead on the desk in front of her and just cried. Sucks to be you, I said. Then I asked, did you bring Gina? She practically exploded, stating, it's Regina. And no, she's doing something with her doctor friend. Well, then I have nothing more to say to you. Don't come back until you bring Gina. I turned and walked away as she was still furious. There was no smile on my face this time. I felt sorry for her. She was broken. The next day, I watched the night report. Apparently, the top floor of a 5-story office building downtown had caught fire. Thanks to the sprinkler system, the bottom 4 floors were not destroyed, but the top floor was gutted. I just smiled. The next day, Ken came to me and informed me that the law firm's external server had crashed. All of their data had been lost. Again, I just smiled. A couple weeks later, I had another visitor. It was Gina. She must have talked her mother into bringing her here. She walked in with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Gina. I turned to her. You look incredibly happy. What happened? I was finally able to finish my surprise for you. There's no way you'll ever guess what it is. Well, I know from our last conversation that it has something to do with the house in Oak Forest. Don't tell me you and Mom moved there. I know she'd rather live anywhere but there. You're half right, she said. I looked at him puzzled. Mom's being evicted from the house in Wilmette, and I'm moving into a house in Oak Forest. How can you do that? After all, according to the court order, she'll have custody of you until you're of age? I asked. What a surprise, I'm legally an adult. Now I was really puzzled. What? I've achieved emancipation. It's something Alex and I have been working on for the past 2 months. Once you put the house in trust, everything fell into place. I needed somewhere safe to live, and our old neighborhood is perfect for that. So let me get this straight. Are you considered an adult now? Yes, when I started having trouble with school, mostly because of problems at home, Dr. Hodges helped me solve the problem. Once you get out of here, you can go home. I can't wait to go back to Oak Forest High School. I've already talked to a lot of my old friends. They can't wait for summer to end and school to start. Mom said you're spending time with a counselor. I'd like to meet this Alex, I said. I was still dubious that this grown guy was paying that much attention to my daughter. Well, you're in luck. Alex brought me here today. Now I was really starting to worry. He's driving her around Chicago? I'll be right back, she said, and headed for the door. I needed to assess the situation. How to tactfully convey to Alex that he was crossing a fine line when it came to his intentions for my daughter. I didn't want to upset my daughter, but I wanted to put the fear of God into him. When Gina walked through the door, she was followed not by a man, but a gorgeous woman with raven hair. She smiled at me with the words, "How are you?" I looked at her carefully and said, "Freddie?" She replied, "I haven't heard that name in about 20 years." Freddie, or should I say Alexandria Frederico, was from my neighborhood. She didn't hang out with my gang, but we went to school together. Gina looked at both of us in confusion. "Daddy, how do you know Dr. Hodges?" Freddie, or Alex, as I now realize, answered for me. We lived in the same neighborhood, but he didn't pay much attention to me back then. I turned to Gina. She was a couple years behind me in school, and we didn't run in the same circles. "And you were a juvenile delinquent back then," she said with a smile on her face. "I can see that you haven't changed much. You're in your 40s now, and you're still in prison." My face turned red, and then I said, I still can't keep my mouth shut when it's appropriate. I guess so, she said. I heard that I should probably call you Tex. Yeah? Gina said. Why do you call him that? It was his nickname when he was a teenager. He was never afraid to retaliate if someone did something bad to him. Your mom definitely did something bad to him. And if I'm not mistaken, the news about the law firm is all Tex is doing. I plead guilty, I said. Before we go any further, I just wanted to say that I hope you don't mind if I spend time with Regina. It's Gina, Regina said. Sorry, I forgot, she said. Then she looked at me again and said, when I first started talking to Gina, about 9 months ago, she was very upset about everything that was going on in her life. I wondered if she was related to you and Ken, since D'Angelo is not the most common last name. When I went through her records and found out that her father's name was Kurt, I still wasn't sure. I always knew you as Tex. When she told me you were in jail, I was sure it was you. I felt really bad then, I admitted. I guess you must have changed and become successful since you have a house in Wilmette, she said. It's just a house. It was never my home, I said. Then Gina said, yes, our real home is in Oak Forest. On the south side, but in a much better neighborhood than where we grew up, Alex said. Yeah, if we had stayed there, we probably wouldn't be where we are now, I said, and then got sad. It was probably true. If Lily had been happy in our loving home, we'd still be happily married. We talked some more, and then I took Freddie aside and said, I really appreciate you taking time out of your family to help her. Thank you also for helping her get emancipation. It's going to make a lot of difference. It's okay, Tex. She's like family to me. I've grown very attached to her. Good, thanks again. When you get out of here, you can take us all out to dinner, she said. I will if I ever get out of here. The next 2 weeks passed with no new developments, just the daily prison routine. Gina and Freddie visited us on Sundays. I was very glad that Freddie had taken Gina under her wing. Gina told me that Alex had helped her decorate the house. They bought new furniture and other decorations. When I asked where they got the money from, she said, from Uncle Ken, of course. I have money set aside for my needs, right? Yes, I just didn't want it to be known that Freddie was paying for anything. She's helped me a lot, but she hasn't bought any of it. I hope it's not all girly stuff. I'd like to feel at home there. Don't worry, your man cave will remain a man cave. She was talking about the basement. I remodeled it to be my sanctuary. Living in a house with 2 women gets boring after a while. You just need some privacy. When they left, I lay there thinking about my daughter growing up. She was already an adult. Soon I'll be on my own. In a couple years, she would be off to college, and then it was still unknown where else. I hoped I could meet someone who appreciated the simple things in life. And on Monday, I had another visitor, again, Lily. When I saw her, I turned around and almost flew back out the door. Then she said, Kurt, wait, we need to talk. I turned around. Now what? I thought. Do you know what our daughter did? What are you talking about, Lily? I asked. She went and got emancipated. She doesn't have to live with any of us anymore. In fact, she's already moved out and I don't know where she went. Oh, that, I said. So you know? You're the one who put her up to this? She accused. No, she did it on her own. The school counselor helped her. And where did she live? At the counselor's house? No, she moved back home. She moved back to the south side. What about school? She asked. She's going back to Oak Forest in the fall, I said. She hated that school in Wilmette, Lily. She was always despised for being a project kid, as they called it. She never belonged in high society. You took her out of a school she liked where she had a lot of good friends and put her in a situation that hurt her ego and gave her an inferiority complex. By moving her there, you did her more harm than good. I was just trying to make sure she got a good education, she stated. Children learn more from their parents' example than they do in the classroom. We were teachers to her of what she will face in life. What do you think your example will teach her? Hopefully, it will teach her what not to do. Our job as parents is to raise law-abiding, responsible adults. I hope we've succeeded in that, and I hope she'll overlook our failures, especially our marriage. It wasn't that bad, she said. No, but it ended that way. Lily, I hope you find what you're looking for. Obviously, I didn't have it. She looked up at me. In her eyes, I saw sadness and regret. I got up from the table and walked out. I felt sorry for her again. Finally, the day came when I was to be released. This time, I was summoned to the real court. Gina and Freddie were there, as well as Lily. As I sat waiting for the judge, I wondered what he would say this time. I still wasn't going to apologize. The bailiff ordered us, all rise. We stood up as the judge entered. It wasn't the same judge. I wondered if he had lost his job. The judge read all the facts presented to him regarding my situation. Then he looked at me. So, Mr. D'Angelo, what do you have to say for yourself? I hesitated and then said, I guess I should say to myself that I've done my original 6 months plus 2 more. At any time, you could have apologized and walked free, he said. It seemed to me that the other judge didn't deserve my apology, so I carried out his sentence. You are a stubborn man, Mr. D'Angelo. I prefer to call him strong-willed, and it has helped me succeed in business and in life, I replied. As for your divorce agreement, it remains in effect and you will have to pay restitution for the months you did not honor it. My attorney then spoke. Your Honor, my client will gladly pay what is owed to him. We estimate it to be just under $20,000. He will generously pay her the entire $20,000 today with the understanding that he has met his financial obligations and will pay her no more. At these words, Lily stood up and said, What? You owe me more, and you must continue to pay me until Regina turns 18. Miss, the judge said, I will handle all cases in my courtroom. Now, counselor, how did you arrive at that figure? Your Honor, my client paid the down payment for spousal maintenance, mortgage, and insurance, and gave money for his daughter's maintenance. He continued to pay insurance and maintenance for his daughter throughout his incarceration. He did not pay spousal maintenance and mortgage to his ex-wife because he was not working and could not get a paycheck. Now that he can work again, he can start earning money. The judge looked at the figures and then said, Your client has been incarcerated for 8 months. His spousal support alone will be $16,000, not to mention his mortgage payments. Your Honor, if you read the transcript of the judgment, it says until the minor child becomes an adult. Your Honor, the child was emancipated within the last 3 months. The legal documents are in your possession, and the house was foreclosed on 3 months ago as well. Thus, there can be no payments on a loan that no longer exists. Therefore, the amount owed is $19,782. He will gladly pay her the full $20,000 and consider his relationship with her terminated in all respects. He looked at the transcript and then at our figures. There was no way he could perceive what was written in black and white in front of him. I will have to study the matter again, but if what you have given me is correct, I will accept that figure. Then he looked at Lily and me and said, You have a child together. Yes, she is an adult from the court's point of view, but she is still a teenager with teenage issues and needs. She needs you both to be civil to each other so she can continue to develop in a healthy way. You all need to be civil to each other. Then, looking directly at me, he said, And you must be civil to others involved in the events that led to your divorce. May I have your word, Mr. D'Angelo? Yes, Your Honor, I said. Mrs. D'Angelo? He asked. Yes, Your Honor, she replied. And Regina? He asked, peering into the gallery. That's Gina, but yes, Your Honor, she said. Then, unless this information turns out to be false, I will close this case, and Mr. D'Angelo, you may go. Thank you, Your Honor, my attorney replied. As we stood up and headed for the exit, Gina ran up to me and gave me a big hug. Freddie stood to the side with a smile on her face. I saw Lily looking at us as we talked. Then Lily walked over to me and said, $20,000? That's it. That's total bullshit. Why? You chose your new people over me. They can help you get back on your feet. Son of a bitch, you can't do this to me. Lily, the judge asked us to be civil to each other. Let's do it for Gina's sake. It's Regina, Lily hissed. Our daughter, okay? What am I supposed to do? I don't have a job, no housing, nothing. You can get another job, and as for housing, I can help you. I can put you in one of my apartments, renting it out for free for 6 months. That way you can focus on getting your life in order. You want me to move back to the south side? She whined. I mean, it's rent-free. How can that be wrong? Ah, she exclaimed. I then turned to Gina and Freddie. Are you ladies ready to go? Of course, they both said. Freddie, I think I owe you a nice dinner. I seem to remember something like that, she said. Well, let's go to RPM Italian restaurant. I made reservations when I got confirmation of the release date. I really need to cleanse my palate of prison food. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Lily. I could see she was furious. This was our restaurant. We went there together on special occasions. The reservation is for 6:30, so we have a little time. Do you mind if we drive around a bit? I need to get used to the freedom, I said. I then turned to Freddie. I made reservations for 4. Could you call your husband and see if he's available? She fell silent and her face became inexpressive. Then Gina said, Daddy, she doesn't have a husband, not anymore. She then turned to Alex. I'm sorry, Dr. Hodges. I didn't tell him. I didn't realize the few times we'd interacted she'd always worn her wedding ring, and even now she was wearing it. What did I miss? I'm sorry, Freddie, if I offended you, I offered. No, don't be, you didn't know. My husband was killed on the Eisenhower Highway about 5 years ago. Some big car changed lanes and drove into the divider. They say he died instantly. I'm sorry, Freddie. I didn't know. I just figured since you were wearing rings that meant you were married. Yeah, I just can't take them off yet. Somehow I feel like if I do, I'll put them out of my mind. I know, psychologists with mental problems. I've heard that before. Well, I'm sorry about that. Perhaps you could join us so I can try to make it up to you? She looked grim, but said, I think you'll be fine. I was so focused on my own problems and revenge that I didn't even ask about her life. I felt like such an ass. I had to change that. Starting tonight, I was willing to listen to anything she wanted to tell me about who she is now and how she got to this life. I became best friends. The food was great. It was so nice to wear regular clothes and not have to worry about always being on guard. The freedom seemed a little strange to me, though. 8 months will do that to you. By the end of lunch, I was feeling better. I took a chance and said to Freddie, Alexandria, when you're ready, let me take you out on a real date. I don't care how long it takes whenever it's convenient for you. But for now, can we stay in touch? Daddy, of course we'll stay in touch. She's not getting away from me that easily, my daughter said. And I wouldn't have it any other way, Freddie said to Gina. Then she turned to me and said, Mike and I never had children. Since I was in school and he was starting a financial planning business, it just wasn't the right time, so Gina as a surrogate daughter has been very therapeutic. I hope you don't mind. After all you've done for both of us, I wouldn't want it any other way, I stated. As we were leaving the restaurant, Gina said, I hope you like the view of our old house. Anything would be better than where I've been for the last 8 months, I replied, and giggled. When we got there, I was surprised. The shutters were painted, the bushes were trimmed. The outside looked great, and I couldn't wait to see what was inside. When I went inside, everything looked different than when I left, but I felt more at home than ever before. You could feel Freddie's imprint in here. I know it sounds vulgar, but I was crying. This hardened criminal was crying. Kurt, I heard Freddie say. I wiped my eyes and said, I feel at home. Kurt, Alex said. I turned to her and she said, I think I'm ready. I looked at her puzzled. She took off her rings and smiled at me. I couldn't help but smile back and we hugged. Epilogue: 10 attorneys, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and a judge have had their careers and marriages destroyed by the events leading up to my divorce and its aftermath. Stubbornness or willpower, either way, sometimes you have to stand up for your principles. On the other hand, Gina had a new mother, a new brother and sister, although they were 18 years younger than her at the time of her birth. One of them is named Frederick, the boy, and the girl's name is Alexis. They were twins, and I love that I could name them both after the person who helped me start my new life. And Lily, she married a rich lawyer. I think she finally got what she wanted. I thought we had everything: a loving family, a nice house in a good neighborhood, a healthy child, a thriving business with no money problems. I guess for me, we had everything. And for her, we lacked only one thing: status. Now she has status. She's married to a wealthy lawyer, lives in a big house in Gwinnett, and has a misogynistic husband who doesn't love her but just keeps her around for the appearance of a stable home life. I hope she's happy. I know she is happy. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel and watch for the next video.